Today is Friday, 17th June 2016. We are here in Bern in the African Mirror Television studio. You are welcome to the first kickoff talk show of MD Platform. In this first edition, we'll be discussing the role of civil society days, global forum and mediation, migration and development, and explore the roles of civil societies and other international organizations on MD Platform. And with me tonight, the international speaker is John Bingham. John Bingham is the chair for International Catholic Migration on Refugees. You're welcome to the program. The other discussants here are Celeste Ogochukwu, who is the president of the African in Diaspora. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you, Donny.
And the third, Khadija Jamar, is in charge of the Somalia in Diaspora and in charge of other activities of the Somalian here in Switzerland. You are welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And with us, as resource person, is Peter Abehard, who is the coordinator of the MD Platform, and Rosa, who is equally a resource person with World Trade Institute. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So let me begin by asking Mr. John Bingham to tell us about himself. Introduce yourself, please.
Sure. Thanks very much, Donald. Thanks for the invitation to be with you here in the studio. Yeah, my name is John Bingham. I work for the International Catholic Migration Commission, as you said, which is a Swiss-based organization, but active at the international level in protection of migrant rights, in protection of refugees worldwide. We work on the ground in 40 countries in Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, and Greece, actually organizing services and protection for people on the move. But we also work at international levels in advocacy and directly with governments. We do that ourselves as a Swiss-based NGO, but we also do that in partnership with other organizations in Switzerland, civil society organizations worldwide. And in particular, we do that in the context of a global process called the Global Forum on Migration and Development, as you said, which brings together something like 200 civil society organizations with 150 governments each year to talk about some of the principal challenges and opportunities in all kinds of migration today. So it's good to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Interesting job you got there. Migration is an international, intrinsic human phenomenon. We can't avoid it. We have to explore how to bring out the best, both for the migrants and for the countries of origin and for the host countries. And I think the Migration and Development Platform, MD Platform, is a dashboard for this connection, for this connectivity. On this, I would like to invite Peter, who is the coordinator for MD Platform, to introduce to us, to tell us what the platform is all about, who are the members, and what it stands to achieve. So, Mr. Peter Eberhard, you're welcome to the program once again.
Yeah, the Swiss Civil Society Platform Migration Development's aim is to bring Swiss civil societies together into a joint body where they can discuss migration development issues. It is an initiative of the Swiss government, this global program on migration development, and its interest was to have a dialogue, a sounding board with civil society. So the interest of civil society is to enter into a dialogue and to have this opportunity with the government. That's the purpose of the platform, and of course our purpose is also to reflect on actions and opportunities and possibilities for migrants to become actors of development. We have the SDGs 2030, the agenda for sustainable development, and migration has a prominent role in it. And our interest is to see how can we fit in, what can we do, and that's why we have also this dialogue, and we want to see how Swiss civil society organization can join and participate and contribute to the international Forum on Migration Development and to the international dialogue as such, high-level dialogue, and global forum migration.
Thank you, Peter. Back to Global Forum on Migration and Development. What is it, and what is the role of civil society organizations in Switzerland and other network bodies? How do you see yourself play in this platform in connection with the GFMD?
Yeah, thanks very much. And others will have a perhaps better answer than I will, but certainly in the 10 years of the Global Forum, it's only a 10-year process that was created by the UN in New York in 2006. But civil society in that process, the reason we participate in these meetings, the reason groups come from all over the world is to change the situation. As Peter said, to look at opportunities, to look at migrants and migrant families as human beings first with rights, but human beings also with talent and opportunity and needs at times, especially in much of today's migration. So civil society, all of us, we walk into this process from our countries, from our communities, from our own personal experience of being migrants or refugees, with a determination to see things get better, to make things better. So we do that in processes, in conversations, in dialogue with governments, very often at minister or sub-minister level from governments around the world, our own governments, Switzerland here. But because migration is always about more than one country, it always involves more than one government. It usually involves many governments with not only cross-border phenomena of people on the move, but regional groupings of governments and of course the international level of all the governments inside the UN and its agencies and as they come together on their own. So civil society, we see this as one part of the possibility for fixing things.
Thank you. You just mentioned civil societies, and that brings me to Celeste Ugochukwu. First, apart from heading the African in Diaspora, we understand you equally involved in so many other organizations and you chair so many chairs. Please tell us more about these capacities of yours before you dwell on the activities.
Thank you, Domino. I don't share so many organizations, but I'm involved in different activities when it comes to migration and development, civil society, diaspora affairs. Like you rightly said, I'm the president of African Diaspora Council of Switzerland, and I'm also a member of the Swiss Federal Commission Against Racism, where we deal mostly as a think tank to advise not only the government, but also civil society, media, politics, about what needs to be avoided and how can we promote diversity to have more tolerance in our Swiss society. And of course, I'm also a member of the MD platform, which just started. And then we just had the training last time to improve on our capacity. Also on the diaspora level, I'm also a member of the Africa-Europe development platform called ADEPT. It's an European platform that brings together different African organizations that work in the area of migration and development. I just came back actually today from Brussels with the ADEPT, where we attended the European Diaspora, European Development Days, which took place in Brussels, organized by the European Commission. So these are some of the activities. Of course, on the national level, I'm also a member of Nigerian Diaspora Organization, which was founded in 2003. First in the year 2000 by the then president of Nigeria, and then it went to different countries in Europe. So on each level, the activities is different. But maybe I should, not to take too much time, to go straight on my activities in the African Council.
I will get back to you on that.
Okay.
the best that say come last. So we meet the only ladies among the panel of discussants, and we're interested in knowing what the chairs you hold here in Switzerland as the representative of the Somaliland or Somali. Please correct me. And then
of course I'll correct you. Thank you for having us today in the studio, African Mirror Foundation Television. I joined the MDF platform a year ago, and my aim was, as a migrant who came all the way here, to give a voice to other migrants, because the MDF platform is a place where us as civil society can give our voice, not only here in Switzerland, that we want our voice to be heard all around the world. Migration and development are positive aspects of life, because great nations like the United States have been found through migration. That's no secret. And I think migration should be respected. And respect comes because migration is a diversity thing. It's a global thing. It has challenges, but I want us to see it in a positive aspect. I came in 2001 from Somaliland. First I went to Kenya, and then I came back. I came here to Switzerland, and since then I've engaged in very many things. I've done translations. I have worked in the hospital. I have, in fact, I started as a cleaner at the beginning because of the language barrier and everything. I think I see myself as a valuable person for the Swiss authority, because I bring in tax, I pay tax, I'm a migrant, of course, and I have supported my country through the migration. I've sent money back home, I've supported my family who couldn't maybe do any other thing apart from waiting for that money from abroad. So I want the world to see. I joined the MDF platform for the world. I want our voice to have a voice, that we migrants are not only challenges to people, but we are a positive aspect to global change. So that's why I joined. And I'll correct you, of course, I'm from Somaliland, and I am the president currently of the Somaliland Swiss Association here in Switzerland. But that doesn't mean that I'm only for Somaliland, I'm for all migrants.
Thank you, Khadija. Now I will employ us to watch a short movie on global our employers to watch a short movie on Global Forum for Migration and Development.
Yes, it's very difficult to have networking because
I think it's important that civil society gets engaged more.
Still, if you're together, you're stronger than being alone.
Share information on how you're able to do things.
Is whatever you're doing as an organization, you may be able to bring that and put it on the table of the plan.
And the coming together has to be not just at an international level, it really has to be more at a national level, where we talk with our own governments.
Pour leur dire, voilà, ce sont les faits de la migration internationale. Et après,
but we begin to look at what's common to us, and that is how we have moved forward as a network. For civil society in Switzerland, I think you've just got to be more involved in some of the processes that are out there at the global level, at regional level, and things like that. Because at the end of the day, like I say now, like for example, now as MFA we are working with the Arab network, it becomes a different thing when I come to Switzerland and say something about migration and migration issues, and when Swiss civil society is saying it in French to your own policymakers. That's when change happens. And that's why I say I think for Swiss civil society to be more engaged in things like Global Forum, other spaces that exist for you, like the International Labour Conference or Human Rights Council, rather than staying within just that Swiss mold kind of thing, get more engaged.
So when you have a civil society platform, for example, you can discuss the problems that you're facing at an individual level, and you will be together. And you would, I mean, we look at different stages For example, in our alliance, the member organizations don't always agree on everything, and it's not necessary that people have to start with agreement. There will be a lot of disagreement, there will be a lot of debate, there will be a lot of interpersonal issues, but still, if you're together, you're stronger than being alone.
We try to collect our efforts to play a good role in our countries. Now we are thinking the result equal to try to pass all these difficulties to have this network.
The first thing with the platform is the strength you get from numbers. All of us in our individual organizations, we are often preoccupied by our highest priorities. But there are other things we're interested in, which we don't have enough time or resources to do. So the Swiss platform, like many other platforms, allow people to come together for those other bigger things to be tackled in a professional manner.
What certainly is an added value of civil society around the world, of the global forum, let's put it that way, is the ability to be able to exchange and share information. Share information on how you're able to do things with your colleagues of civil society. Certainly, I think that would be a big value added for the work that they have to do there. Similarly, as members of a destination country, civil society in a destination country like Switzerland would also be able to understand the worries, the concerns, and the and specific issues that civil society in countries of origin, like in Bangladesh, think about.
The more we work with migrants, the more we work with refugees, the more we realize that it's work that has to be done, and it's good work. And the way to do it best is for us to come together in that work. And we're more powerful together. We're more powerful as witness of what is really happening. We're more powerful as expression of what needs to change. And we succeed sometimes, but usually we succeed when we come together. And the coming together has to be not just at an international level, it really has to be more at a national level, where we talk with our own governments. So as civil society groups, we have to stay at it, we have to persist at it, and sometimes that requires a patience that we need to find not only in ourselves, but from one another in civil society. How do we stay at this?
Il y a beaucoup de sujets dans le domaine migration régulier, irrégulier, qui sont sur la table, qu'il faut partager. C'est très important qu'il y a cette plateforme qui essaye de réunir les différents groupes, les différentes organisations. C'est très difficile. Il faut quelqu'un qui les rallie, qui les mette ensemble. Et après, de venir envers nous aussi, en nous disant, écoutez, nous avons des idées pour contribuer à ce dialogue, aussi au niveau international, des idées innovatrices de contribuer.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome back to the program. As you have heard, there are so many opinions and different voices there, but they all dwell on one. Give voice, come together, harmony in diversity. There is an African proverb that says, when brothers and sisters urinate together, it forms better. So I return it back to you, Mr. Bingham. Why is the Global Forum on Migration and Development important to you, to your organization?
Thanks very much. Well, one of the things that first attracted us in our organization, our NGO, to the Global Forum was it was the first time that the governments and the United Nations system and civil society came together to talk not only about migration at an international level, seriously, yeah, but also, as Celeste says, about development and migration. about development, and not just economic development, but human development. The aspirations, as Hadi has said, for us to seek opportunities, all of us as human beings. Again, jobs are important, but so is social development, so is cultural development, so is diversity and participating in a diverse society. That's the kind of development that the Global Forum can talk about. And we believe, as a civil society group, working with platforms in different countries and a global mix of platforms and NGOs, that we have to insist that the development is human, that it's based on human rights, that it's based on a recognition that the person at the center of all of this discussion of migration and development is a human being with rights and aspiration. It's not, migration isn't a problem, it's actually a solution if people have the rights to seek their own solutions and offer those solutions to their families and the communities and so on. So we've pushed along with civil society groups from around the world, an increasing number of whom are diaspora groups and migrants and refugees. In the first year, in 2006 to 2007, first year of the Global Forum, maybe there were 10 or 15 groups that were involved that were diaspora migrants. In Turkey last year, in October, at the most recent Global Forum, more than half of the groups involved and the individuals were migrants or were working in migrant-led organizations. That's a good sign of how authentic perhaps the conversation can be, how hopeful it might be. And that's the direction I think civil society wants to continue going in.
Yeah, that gives hope when migration is able to look at issues like poverty alleviation, gender equality, economic development, growth in general. And then I return it back to you, Celeste. How does the African diaspora see themselves playing in the Swiss civil organization in line with what we have just heard?
Thank you again. I think I will take you back a little bit at the beginning of African diaspora, where we actually come together to form this network, and how that network has been very useful in bringing forward and enhancing the situation of African diaspora in Switzerland. If you recall, sometime in 2010, a young Nigerian asylum seeker died during deportation at the airport in Zurich because of the forced deportation. And I happened to be that time the president of Nigerians in Diaspora organizations. And being a Nigerian asylum seeker, we took up some actions at that time. And that gave us the possibility to come together, because while we tried to make an action with the African community, we did not have the possibility or the network to contact the African community. And that gave rise to form the African Diaspora Council and to have a network whereby we can connect to each other, we can share information, and we can assist each other. Now, the first thing we did was to move to different states.
Hold on, let me cut it short there. Share information. Since you've just mentioned share information, I would like to invite viewers and spectators who are watching this live to feel free to call 032-313-3030. Again, I take it. 032-313-3030. Well, viewers are welcome to contribute on this program. Thank you. Sharing of information use.
Yes, thank you. So the first thing we did, the first challenge when we started was to know where are the African groups, organizations, and what are they doing? How can we liaise with them? How can we form a network? How can we build a strategy together to build our community together? So I must say we were lucky at that time. The State Secretariat for Migration was able to see the destination that we are going and saw the light at the end of the tunnel and supported the project we had. So we have this project that's called Swiss 2, which took us to different cities in Switzerland, so different cantons, to visit African groups, and at the same time to visit also the Swiss Platform for Integration to see what is the view of the Swiss people on integration of Africans? And what are the Africans? How do they view their own integration? What are they contributing to their own integration? Which most of the time do not come to the public domain. And thereafter, we have the first African Congress in Switzerland, where we showcase the findings we got from this Swiss tour. So from there on, the network kept moving. Today, I can say with pride that when an African or a Swiss person or any other person in Switzerland wants to deal with the African community, they have a good contact they can rely on. And what is very important is that African Council do not have the monopoly to assist in different areas that people want us to come in. But what is good is that we have contacts to people who can assist when we cannot assist. And that's why the community is growing and the network is growing. Now, to come to the area of migration and development, we started in 2010, and then in 2013 was the first time we started bringing together also the African governments through their embassies to get to know each other better, to get to create more trust, because originally an average African government sees the African diaspora as people in the opposition, people that have this democratic knowledge who want to come and change everything, and they don't want such a rush change. So they keep diaspora at a distance. So we felt that there's a need for a dialogue, and we started bringing the African embassies together. And in 2003 was the first open platform where many of them came. We shared together, and we kept moving on. Now, on the level of GFMD, as President of the African Diaspora Council, I attended the first GFMD last year in Turkey, where Peter, John was there, and Peter was there too. So my major aim was also to see on the global level what is going on, what is the best practices that are going on that we can share and inculcate it in the diaspora here. And of course, for me, what I gained mostly from there is that I was able to get in direct contact with most African government officers that are directly in charge of diaspora and migration. So it was easy to dialogue with them. And of course, sharing with them, I could also see where their fear lies, why many governments do not want to engage with the diaspora. There is, like I said before, this fear that the diaspora tend to know too much and want to change everything. So that was a problem, and because of that, we said, before we engage further, there's a need to continue that dialogue. So also find out, because sometimes the expectations from the African side, from the southern side, and the expectation from the diaspora, there are two parallel lines. So we need to come together to have a common expectation in order to tackle it together.
Thank you very much. Now we have heard harmony in diversity. The African governments do not see the diaspora as an opposition, but as collaborators in the same boat. Now, talking about diaspora, I get back to Khadija. As one in diaspora, a migrant, what are some of the challenges you have encountered here living in Switzerland, and how do you see yourself fitting in all this?
Thank you for the question. I think I'll just not talk personally about myself, but I'll talk generally about all migrants. In respect of all migrants, I'll say we have the difficulty is mobility. Mobility. If we don't allow people to go and find, it's like grazing, cows and cattle, they have to find fresh pasture. And if we don't give human beings this chance to come out of where they feel they are not safe, or they are not secure, or they don't have jobs, and come out of this place to find fresh pasture, to find jobs, to find a way to help their country of origin, I think we shouldn't be discussing all this. And government should be really, really, really they should see this as a positive aspect, as I said before, because migrants coming doesn't mean that we only come with challenges. We come with very positive things. We come with labor. Migrants are mostly labor workers. We come with development. That means not only for the hosting country, but also for the country, to the country of origin. We bring back the know-how and the expertise. The challenges migrants face are, for example, there are very, very different challenges that migrants face. For example, in general, migrants face lack of protection during their journey. We've seen that migrants have, especially women and children, have gone through a lot of problems. Rape cases have been on a high rate, and I come from Somaliland, and I have to say very many have died in the sea. And if the UN and the global, as we call our earth, the global, doesn't allow mobility, this will continue, and there is no point of talking always about global and migration. Yeah. Because if there is no mobility, people will take the chance, people will take the risk, people will come. However much you close the borders, people will come. So giving people these chances will help a lot. It will stop trafficking. People will not die in the sea, and we should allow migration to be regular and not make it irregular. That's my message. And then coming to a country like this, you come from a country, you come here, you start working. First you go to school, learn the language, and then start working. Your certificates are not acknowledged, the first thing. You come, I know people who have been pilots in Somalia, have been flying the Boeing, and they are here with us in Switzerland. Their certificate is not acknowledged, their diplomas are not acknowledged. You start asking yourself, why? If a Swiss pilot can fly a plane and is acknowledged, and the plane is the same plane from the Boeing company, why can't a Somali or an African or an Arab who was flying for 10, 15, 20 years, the same type of machine, why can't he be accepted to fly it here? So those are challenges. I've just talked about pilots, their nurses, midwives. When I came here, I couldn't start anything. Once was a language barrier, so I thought, okay, go to school, learn German. I did that. I had to attain the B2 certificate. That's the general certificate of language, so that you can come in the business market. So after attaining that, I tried to bring up my certificates. None of them were acknowledged. I was supposed to go back to square one, of which I didn't. So as a migrant, I thought about my people back home, and I thought, okay, I can't go back to square one. I don't want to have 4 years of learning. The easier thing I took the job as an assistant nurse, an assistant midwife. I couldn't take my job, so I took it, and I started working since 2008. I've been working in the hospital as an assistant nurse because I need the money. I need to support my family here as well as my family. And that's all migrants have one aim, developing themselves where they are in the country of origin, and in the country of the hosting country, and then also in the country of origin. And through that, through coming, we are helping our countries of origin. We are developing there. If I go back to my country, Somaliland, and see how developed it is every year, all these tired buildings that are being built, all these people who have come from the diaspora outside Somaliland, who went, like me, like migrants, and came back and really made fabulous development in our country, then I always think migration is worth it.
Thank you, Hadiya, and sorry for most of the preferential treatments that we have to encounter as migrants. I think this happens almost everywhere. Not to give any particular example, but you concretely nailed it there. Human beings should be allowed to move. Human beings should be allowed to migrate to wherever they find peace and security, and they should be protected during their course of movement and in their host countries and even the countries of origin where they are fleeing from. And other things are insensitivity to either the gender or to the cultures, as you have rightly said. Maybe since Rosa is here and she is our resource person and have had a lot of experiences from different parts of the globe, I invite her in to share more with us on this platform, what her experiences or what she feels we could learn and benefit from in this platform. Rosa.
Thank you, Francis, and thank you for the chance to be here. I'm delighted. It's the first time I'm part of the Swiss civil society. I was before a governmental official on behalf of the Federal Office for Migration. And what I would like to say is, I would like to focus on the pluralism of the platform. I think the pluralism within the platform gives us the chance to value the diversity we represent all together. We have to make sure that we get respect to this diversity that we represent. Respect strengthens integration, and integration at least strengthens development, not only in the host country, but also in the country where we come from. As granddaughter, daughter of migrants, my family came in the 70s to Switzerland without papers. They were irregular migrants. Without the chance to migrate, I would not be here today. And I would not have the chance to contribute to this country as I did, as high governmental official for Switzerland with the Spanish passport. So I also would like to facilitate more ways for migration.
Excuse me, Rosa. There's a caller on the line. We'd like to take that call.
Just go on. Thank you.
Hello, you're welcome to MD Platform First Kickoff Show. May we know your name, please, and where you're calling from?
Hello, I am Camelia. I am calling from Spain. First, I would like to congratulate all participants to the show for the support they are giving to this important subject.
Welcome, Camelia. You're welcome to the platform.
Thank you.
Now, may we know your contribution or your questions, please?
Yes, I wish to see more topics, especially about the refugee crisis we are facing these days.
Sorry, can you take it again?
I wish to see more topics.
Good.
Especially about refugee crisis we are facing these days.
Thank you.
In Europe.
I'm happy you raised this. And then a lot of people here who have experiences of working with refugees, and I hope the coordinator for this platform has noted your comment. You have any other contribution, Carmen?
No, for the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for calling. Thank you, Rosa. We may continue.
So, if I may explain my vision of this process with a tale, I would like to tell the tale of the elephant and the blind people. For me, this process is like a big elephant, and we are all blind. And we are asked to describe the part of the elephant we are allowed to touch. As you may see, it's impossible to make the whole picture. So we are the whole picture. We have to step one step back, come together, define what is the elephant, and then find the common ground. From this common ground, we can go on together in this process. And the part of the elephant I would like to focus on is diversity, the positive effects of diversity, and respect for the migrants and the contribution of the migrants all over the globe, in the host country and in the country we come from. That would be my message I would like to share with you all.
Thank you, Rosa. As we have heard the caller say, the caller is Carmen, who has just called from Spain. Most of you, especially Mr. Bingham, have worked with refugees in Cambodia, you've worked in other places with ICMC, and probably you'd like to say something to Carmen. She's waiting on the line.
Thanks very much. Yeah, thanks, Carmen, for that question. And actually, your you're quite right, and I think you'll be very happy to hear, and I think we'll all be challenged at the good news, I guess, but the challenge that the governments and civil society have decided finally to look very directly at refugees and the current situation, not only of refugees crossing the Mediterranean and up through North Africa and to Greece and so on, but refugees who are crossing in South Asia, refugees who are coming up through the Americas, because they can't stay where they were born. There's war, there's persecution, there's violence of all kinds for children as well as men and women, and hundreds of thousands are moving. And as Edita said, on boats and in all kinds of risks, because there's no way for them to move in safe channels or even with the right to be protected even under international law, which says they should be protected. So in September of this year, the United Nations General Assembly at the topmost level is having a summit. We learned this week 150 governments have agreed to participate in this summit at the UN General Assembly at the level of the heads of state. So the prime ministers and the presidents have agreed to come to talk about a lot of these issues that we've talked about, migration and development aspects, but very centrally, at the top of the agenda is to talk about refugees, and to talk not only about refugees, but to talk about solutions, to talk about responsibility sharing. What are governments supposed to do? What are they legally required to do under international law for refugees of all kinds? Some of that decision-making, this very unusual high-level meeting to now talk about refugees at the General Assembly, that's come from civil society pushing, and refugees and other migrants among those pushing the hardest. Last year, in the Global Forum, when we pushed on refugees and Syrians and others, one of the two global co-chairs of civil society was a Somali woman who had come on a boat and made her way up to Northern Africa. The year before, it was an African man from the ADEPT organization, was one of the co-chairs, pushing very strongly from their own experience of worry and suffering and also struggle and success, but in the real world of things that need to be solved.
Thank you. I think...
if I may add a little bit to this refugee issue, I'm going to move a little bit out of the Syrian case because we know it, we see it on the television every day. But what I would like to make very clear here is that sometimes we do say there are a lot of refugees coming from Africa or some of these countries. But the latest statistic from the IOM shows that more than 80% of people that migrate refugees in Africa, they end up in Africa. In West Africa, for example, the ECOWAS region, since the Boko Haram started its menace in the region, the majority of the refugees that left the northeast part of Nigeria ended up in Cameroon, in Chad, in Niger. So they don't even come to Europe. So the majority of people that Kenya, for example, hosted the Somali refugees and Ethiopians for many years, 300, the largest refugee center in the world, 300,000. So when we are saying they are too much, I start asking myself, how many are there actually? So I think it is important to also put it into context. Of course, there's no country that can accommodate every person, but we shouldn't come with the idea that people who are coming there, there are too many. Because if we look at the capacity of a country like Cameroon that just accepted 80,000 from Nigeria, we see their capacity hosting such a big number of refugees, and the West that always said that there are too many refugees and so on. When you look at the capacity of both, we see the Africans are doing a lot to accommodate their refugees from their neighboring countries. Now, another thing also that is very important is to point out here that as long as there are conflicts, as long as there is hunger, there's a lack of stability, there's lack of peace, people will continue to move. So I think the best way to invest, instead of waiting at the last moment when people are moving, we start looking for shelter here and there, we start going to television to say they are coming to overtake our land, they're taking our jobs. Because I believe as a human being, everybody is willing and ready to stay in his own natural habitat when he has what it takes to live there. So in that case, I think it is high time, in the time of this, in controlling refugees, it's high time that we started also investing in helping people to find a good accommodation in their home countries. When young people have good jobs, they will be less attracted to carry arms, to start fighting.
Thank you,
So
sir.
this is one thing.
Investing in human people. Peter has invested a lot of time and years in refugee issues in diaspora. So you'd like to say something on this?
I fully agree. I fully agree on, I think, the civil society also in the Global Forum Migration Development. Before the states are 2 days of civil society days, and before that is the People's Action Day. And the People's Action Day is where socially engaged civil society organizations meet. And last year in the GFMD in Turkey, the main concern was to have accepting that there is these questions for more mobility in a globalized world. Of course, it's also economical terms, right? We have mobility is part of globalization, but it should be a free choice. You should be free to decide whether you move, right? And there's so much you're forced to move, right? And I think what Celeste said, there is this interest to live in one's own habitat. Mobility is interesting if you're looking for a better life, but if you can have your better life at home, why should you move, right? And I think that's a different tendency. And there is this tendency to make mobility more easy, so to get cheaper labor at the destination where you want them to be, so to make people move for it. And I think civil society has an interest that if there is mobility, there is human rights, that human rights are protected and people are protected. And the other side is also that you also have this free decision to move, right? And the first concern should not be to destabilize countries in order to change them, but to stabilize countries so people can stay and live there where they belong to or where they belonged to, right? And then you have this power to have a positive mobility, a positive impact on migration and development.
Thank you, Peter. I think Khadija has been nodding her head and
Yeah,
want to say something.
I just wanted to add to Celeste, because Celeste just mentioned a very important point, and that I want just to say, when problems happen in a country, the next neighboring country happens to host most of the migrants. Maybe 20 or 30% of the migrants then get out of that place. And for me, it's migration and mobility should not be a matter of proximity. So, like Turkey is now hosting more of the Syrian refugees just because it's a neighboring country. So that doesn't give the world the right to say, yeah, you are the neighbor, take the refugees. So we should also address the term proximity. The proximity should not define me as a migrant to stay where people think I have to stay.
Thank you, Khadija. If I understand what we have just shared, I understand that migration should not be forced, but it should be willing. An individual should feel free due to environmental reasons, due to political reasons, religious reasons, or whatever, to migrate to any country they really want to live in, where they find peace. And then in line with what Celeste had just said, that though there are a lot of refugees on the move, but the number of internally displaced persons are very, very high compared to the number of refugees, according to different statistics in different regions and different localities. So this gives rise also that attention should be given to IDPs in local regions and international regions as well. Maybe any of you would like to, your final message to our viewers, to our spectators about refugees, migration, and IDPs in general.
I would like to ask John for, as a final statement, what can we expect from the GFMD 16s where you're chairing this coordination committee? Yeah. I think then we have to come to an end, right? Yeah.
Thanks very much. And to answer both those questions in maybe 2 sentences, development and how, in the name of the platform, in the name of the Global Forum of Migration and Development, development is also a solution if it's done in a rights way. It's a solution that gives people the ability to not migrate if they don't want to. The choice, as you say. The first right in migration is the right to not migrate, and then it's the right to choose freely to migrate safely. So in the Global Forum in Dhaka in Bangladesh in December, we'll be talking about those issues, civil society, all of us, hopefully with enormous input from the Swiss platform. I would say, and also in one sentence, the Swiss NGOs and the Swiss government are leaders more than the size of the country, and really among the leadership in civil society and among governments on sustainable development, on these issues of forced migration, on these questions of rights. Not perfect as a government or a set of policies, but very much leading in some of the directions civil society likes very much. But back to Rosa, what Rosa was saying before as well, diversity and inclusion, respect. Those are major focuses for civil society in the Global Forum in Bangladesh this year, and their major advocacy efforts for civil society towards that big meeting at the UN General Assembly in September. A sense among civil society groups all over the world, NGOs, trade unions, migrant diaspora groups, academics as well, development organizations, that in all of the issues of the elephant of migration and development, worldwide, xenophobia, lack of respect, lack of inclusion is in every one of them. And that leads to the problems on the boats and in the deserts and in the workplace and in communities, at the borders and straight through life.
Celeste wants just a
yes,
minute.
I just want to make a triangle call. First to the diaspora themselves. Time have passed when we should be talking, condemning others, what others are not doing, why we are not doing what we're supposed to be doing. It is time that we, diaspora, must engage with Africa and start with a little project we can to improve the situation there. Secondly, on the host government, it is also time because diaspora is like a bridge. We are bridging the gap between the host and the countries of origin. It is also high time that the host countries should start taking more from the diaspora, seeing diaspora as partners and not just as people that can be used. When we are partners, I believe we can do a lot because we can engage better with our home governments. And at the same time, another call also goes to the countries of origin. At this age, the diaspora should not always be seen as opposition. We should be seen also as partners in this call of development. So what I would like to say that if there is more dialogue to engage both, that will get to understand each other better, then there will be more participation and more collaboration. And finally, I want to make a general call to everybody that on the 3rd of September this year at the Universal Postal Union, the African Diaspora is organizing a conference on this subject, migration and development. And I will call on everybody, register, come to join us. Let us keep dialoguing. There's a way out, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you.
Thank you, Celeste. Thank you, Rosa. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, John. And thank you, Khadija. We have come to the end of our first edition of the MD platform on migration and development, and we hope that the viewers, the government, the research institutes are all taking note and working hard to move this forward. Development, as we have all heard and said, is the center of migration. It should be harnessed both home and abroad. So once again, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you and more contribution towards the next program.
Can you announce the French now?
And now we're going to have the French edition of the same program. Thank you for watching. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Domino.
Thank you.
Thank you.